December. After by Lisa Cruel Moon. Description: we are all hypocrites at heart. School bullying, violence by classmates. I hope you are not familiar with this. And here's Lisa. However, read for yourself. Part 1. I looked at her for the seventh time that day. She was sitting at the last desk all alone. The hood on one black hoodie covered her face, which was covered with scratches, cuts, and bruises. I saw that she was ill, that she was in pain, not only physically, after the recent beating around the corner of the school, but all mentally. She was killed from the inside, killed a long time ago. She stopped fighting and stopped clinging to life. I knew she didn't care anymore if she got beaten up again when she got home. I knew she didn't care if it happened again tomorrow. Most often bullying victims don't talk about their problems to parents and teachers, try to resist the aggressors on their own, suffer, break down, and then it gets too late. Adults be able to stop bullying and protect the child, but only if they know that it's happening. And you can learn about bullying only when a child trusts his parents and is able to open it with relatives. Lisa didn't have the opportunity to seek help from adults. Our school is a bunch of hypocrites. Teachers are hypocrites. Students are hypocrites. The teachers knew that Lisa was being bullied, but they did nothing. There were reasons for this. The mother of one of the guys who bullied the girl was the director of the school, and the father was the main sponsor. Her parents weren't able to help her either. Lisa didn't have a mother, and the drunken father didn't have about his daughter. 5 guys stumbled into the classroom. One of them has been my boyfriend for the last 2 years. I wouldn't have met him for anything if I didn't know what fate awaits me in a case of raceful. Al, hi! He came up to me, kissed me on the cheek, and opportunely deciding to have some fun, went to the last desk. How are you, Liz? Does anything hurt? I looked at the girl again. She didn't dare look up. I knew she was afraid. Daddy was not angry yesterday that you came home late? Elka, do something, he will be here again. I never stood up for her. I wanted to help her, but I was afraid that I myself would become the object of ridicule and mockery. Maybe you'll be late today too? The guy smiled his trimmed shark smile. Oh! Hearing the opportune bars of classmates, Axel smiled and continued. Today, everything will be different. Is it necessary to charge something sometimes? He took a fallen knife out of the pocket and threw into the trash. I'm kind of tired of him. Maybe it's better? Elka! A crash rolled through the classroom and I pretended to cry out. Ouch! Axel stopped abruptly and his attention shifted me. The eyes of the other classmates also turned to me. I looked at Lisa briefly. There was a flicker of hope in her frail gaze. Apparently, she realized that I didn't own a purse. As Axel made his way to me through the narrow aisles between the desks, I watched the girl out of the corner of my eye. She took the battered black diary out of the pocket and clicked his pen. I've seen her read this naughty book more than once. I didn't have time to guess that she should have written in this time. Sticks carefully sat down next to me and looked me up and down in a puzzled way. Fell? There was so much worry in his eyes. Apparently, the bolts flew out of the chair. I began to compose onto the goal. Change the chairs. Classmates instantly changed the broken chair to a new one as soon as they head to the counter's order. Does it hurt? A small scratch, it's nothing. Come on, I will take you to the infirmary. I nodded, getting to my feet. I met Lisa's approving gaze. The performance I arranged did change much. Since Lisa wasn't beaten up today, they will definitely do it tomorrow. I could only hope that at least until the end of this day she would untouched. I don't know why I stood up for her today. Why not then the ex first made a rather harmless joke in her direction compared to this hoping now? I don't know. I've always been afraid to him. Sometimes I couldn't sleep at night thinking about what would have happened if I had refused his offer to become her girlfriend. The ex has long rotted from the inside. I was afraid he might hurt him. I seemed to be that mentally ill, since she did not merely first for what he did with Lisa. I resigned myself to accepting his offer to start dating. I knew there would be no turning back. I was not eager to part with him. I just wanted to finish school as soon as possible and hope that our paths would diverge there. Being the girlfriend of someone who was power, perhaps all the whole school and very good. As long as you are first to the barricades, you have everything. Influence, authority, a lot of friends and fans. Yes, I was a hypocrite too. I was in a happy round. Axwell, he was very kind to me. He gave me gifts and invited me for works. For his parents, he was an ambitious son, and my mother and father considered him white and fluffy, but as soon as he was near his peers, he immediately became different. There is no excuse for violence. I wanted more than once by ethics and bullies. This has been going on for 8 years now, and over the years, I have not found this answer to my question. I decided the ex was a parroted bastard and unreal so crudely was inherited in my nature. Elk, are you coming? Another plus of his relentlessship was a best table in the dining room and free food. I can't find the phone. Go, I will be soon. Axwell nodded and left the classroom while I tried it anxiously to find a phone. Small pocket on the left. What? You put in the last brick. Exactly, thank you. Lisa don't wrap the desk and came over to me. After a little hesitation, she stretched out her hand, in which lay the Burberry. It is for me? Hooked at the Candy Valley? Yes, thanks. And you? Quickly, you uncreased me a bolt from the chair. How are you? The chairs are new this year, and they couldn't break too easily. You were waiting for the dining room. Yes, I will go. Taking my phone out of the bag, I left the office. Clutching the candy in my hand, I wondered why she gave it to me. The dining room appeared ahead, and I quickly put the Burberry in my pocket and I went inside. Axwell was already sitting at me at the center table, surrounded by his faithful retinue. The next chair to his right was empty. You are talking a long time, he muttered so fondly. I'm sorry, I rummaged through the whole packet. Did you find the phone? Yeah. I sat down at the table and looked at the plate of food. Instead of a standard school lunch, I had a portion of pasta with cheese in front of me. Would you like some pomegranate juice? I didn't like pomegranate juice, but I knew from my one experience it had better not to refuse Axwell. Is there an apple one? Yes. I had to get out on it to refuse, and not to choke on an other drink. Glancing briefly at Axe, I noticed satisfaction of his face. Thanks. Part 2. Elk, Yes. Are you going home? No. Oh, you have a dance today, right? Yeah. When I will go with his guys. I look the guys so green behind him. They wrung their fingers. Is in a alteration of something. It wasn't difficult for me to figure out what exactly. Well, shall we go? A light framed me up. A tiny tongue of flame turned into a fire in an instant, burning me from the inside. Guilt began to consume me. Lisa came out of the office. No! X will have an question look. Oh! 10 points to murder action. Grabbing my injured leg into the morning, I met a grimace of pain off my face. Does your leg hurt again? Yeah. The attention of X's friends turned to me. Lisa from a place looking haunted in our direction. You are not going to dance, the guy said firmly. But let's go home together. I will walk you two out. X was really a good guy sometimes. Probably, if we were an absolute jerk, it would be easier for me. I could sincerely hate him about her moves, and so good. His friends exchanged frustrated glances. Without a leader, no one dared to beat Lisa. He was their patron, and there were friends with him to profit. They used, and the same way they used them. I began to see a black notebook in Lisa's hands more often. She was actively writing and drawing something in it, looking strangely at others and whispering something with her lips. I felt sad just looking at the girl. She must be very lonely. And these diaries is the only thing she can share the trouble with. Elka, someone has come to see you. I turned to the sound of my mother's words and quickly putting the textbook and notebooks in my bag, went down to the first floor. Hi, baby. Axwell? I came for you. Do you want to go to school together? Yes, if Elia doesn't mind. I don't mind. When you need to get out now, or you'll be late. And breakfast? You will have breakfast at school. Mom was exaggeration again. He had enough time, but I decided not to argue. I nodded, and X and I left the house. He lived nobly and sometimes came to pick me up to go to school together. Where are the boys? And what? Well, you were always with you. They had to come to school earlier today. I see. I could only hope it wasn't related to Lisa. I never approved of Axel's behavior and once even asked him to stop, but he only snapped back and said to climb. Give me your backpack. I didn't argue and handed the bag a backpack. Thanks. Does your leg hurt anymore? Sometimes it hurts. I decided to lie in order to save Lisa again in case of something, turning my attention to myself. Can you walk? Yeah. When I went to school alone, I always walked through the peak. This road was longer but much nicer. The grating area planted with flowers has a quiet, peaceful atmosphere. Shall we go through to the park? The awful fell from my lips, somewhere furiously. Well, let's go. He held out his hand and we went the other way. Do you know yesterday Mom arrived from a business trip? Really? Great! You haven't seen each other for the month. Did she enjoy a trip? Very much. She spent time telling me how cool and interesting it was there. By the way, I have something for you. X took a small box out of his pocket. Mom brought a lot of things and accessories. I thought you might like it. The guy hesitated, excitedly opened the box. I looked under the lid with interest. Inside was a very beautiful bracelet of fine workmanship with small blue stones and feathers. Mom said that the blue color and feathers represent freedom. X will look away in embarrassment, handing in his box, and there was so much science, love in his eyes, that for a second I forgot who his really was. It's amazing. Thank you very much. I really like it. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a slight smile and chillish jurors in X's gaze. Let's go, or we'll be late. I fastened the bracelet on my wrist. Axel held out his hand to me, and I yelled into emotions. Put my palm into it to wave your small smile. There was a pleasant confused smile in the park. Look, ice cream, will you? I won't refuse. Caramel, right? How I don't know. Good memory. But I never told him that. X let go my hand and walked out of the ice cream stand. After paying for 2 horns, he ran me to end and handed me a tray with a satisfied thanks. We walked through the park, delaying time, laughing, and talking about various topics. For the first time in our entire relationship, I was genuinely happiest to spend time with him. We didn't even notice how we got to school, and I found myself thinking that I was very upset by his fact. Axel's company wasn't repugnant to me, but I always felt tense around him and was usually glad to be alone. What has changed this time? Hello, X. Hi, Elka. Hello. Stick's friends looked at our extended hands in a strange way. I gently released his hands and sat down at my desk. Lila immediately figured into place, waiting for them she would finally be able to endure swimming questions. She knew that I wasn't dating Axel out of a great love, but I think she guessed from my happy face that something was changed in me today. After waiting for the guy and his friends to sit down at their desks, and no one would even drop on us, my friend someone looked at me slowly and smiled. Strange. I thought she didn't like him. She wouldn't date him for anything, even if she had to endure his bullying after refusing. For Lila, justice came first, and that's what I liked about her, and that's why I expected a reaction from her. Disappointment, maybe even an accommodation, but not any interest in Green. I'm listening. I decided to pretend that I didn't understand what she was talking about. What? You know, we just came to school together. There is no the first time. Why are you looking like that? Oh, your cheeks as red as tomatoes, and his eyes are shining. There is a new bracelet on your arm, and which I see for the first time, and you smell like banana ice cream. Have you even thrown becoming a detective? Sounds tempting, but not get to the subject. You already figured it out for yourself. If you mean that you're working in the park, eating ice cream, and Axel gave you a bracelet, then yes, I guessed. Well, if that's in the case, then stop pursuing me. I want to know what you think. I think X has a heart, small but there is. Come on, he doesn't even treat his friends so well. Why is that? They eat the turtle. That's not what I'm talking about. Have you ever seen him pat when out the head for mistakes? No. And you? What about me? Has he ever yelled at you? No, but I didn't make my mistakes either. I just made another one. Sometimes you behave in such way that even I want to slap you. For example, do you even know that the kind of character you have, that you don't like, that doesn't suit you? Lyle. Okay, it's unless to argue with you. I clicked my tongue and reached into my backpack for my textbooks, when suddenly I came across something flat and rustling. What's the rustling? Chocolate bar. Without noticing, I smiled. Of course, if it wasn't difficult for me to guess that my boyfriend planted me chocolate. Probably he put it when he was carrying in my backpack. I raised my head and read his gaze. Nice. Our exchange of glances was interrupted by a bell, along with the teacher entered the classroom. Good afternoon, guys. Let's start the lesson. Part 3. The change after the tailor's biology seemed like heaven to me. Lila and I were walking down the corridor, eating a chocolate bar divided in half. What yummy! My friend's face stretched into that blissful smile. Yeah, don't get stuck together. Don't worry. Listen, what could be worse than biology? I thought about it. Geometry, physics, algebra? Do you want to list the subjects? Yeah. Don't, I believe you anyway. We entered the history room. Let's go to the last desk? Come on, I agreed. We'll finish the chocolate in class. Exactly, Lila nodded. We had almost reached the last desk of the hot row. When suddenly our seats were taken by stupid classmates with attitude grins frozen on their face. Get up! Actually, we were going to sit down here. What else, sir? The guy fronted me. This is wow place. Get out of here before you help. Get up! Axel's loud voice came from behind me. My boyfriend, by the way, appeared in class. He was alone. Apparently, all his friends were rewriting the geometry test. The hooligans exchanged glances and reluctantly stood up. They didn't dare to contradict their leader. Okay. He raised his hands in defeat. Sticks threw his backpack on the chair on the pedestal desk in our row and plopped down next to him. For some reason, I suddenly wanted to sit next to him, and without even warning Lila, I walked around his desk and putting the guy's backpack on the floor, sat down next to him. He looked at me in surprise, and I just smiled in response. The phone in my pocket vibrated. A friend wrote to me. And me? I'm sorry. Why did you sit down with him? I don't know. Maybe you... That's enough. I locked the screen and looked at Axel again. He looks and he's not a book with a board, ink and plate with a pen. I that handsome? I shook my head. What? I'm sorry? You stared at me for 2 minutes without looking away. I was just thinking. I turned away, abruptly feeling awkward. You know, I actually don't mind. For me to admire you? He nodded. Our eyes met. Do you have dancing after school today? No. Why? I want to walk you home. I laughed. What? He looked at me resentfully. When your friends are busy, do you turn your attention to me? No, I just realized this morning that we don't communicate much. Why is that? We can see each other every day. Yes, but only because of the school. We don't still together in class. We rarely go home to school together. So, do you decide that you want to go something about it? Definitely yes. Well, I'm glad. Me too. The teacher was late, and for more than half our lesson. X and I were just chatting. He asked me about my interests, tests. It was nice to feel that he was really interested in what I live and I'm interested in. It gave me pleasure to sit at the same desk with a guy. I started to forget again why we started dating in the first place. The bell rang, and X and I went to the dining room together. A big change has begun, which means that he could that about various nonsense for some time. And I was leaving the classroom. I caught Lila's disapproving look at me. I bit my lip, probably often the left hers were perfect. Unfortunately, my friend was having lunch in his timetable, as there were only seats for me, X and his brave best friends at ours. Elk, what will you have? The guy's voice distracted me from my chores. And what is there? Potato soup, pancakes, and carrot roll. Then perhaps soup. X will approach the cook, and she handed him a tray with a plate of soup. Here you go, he handed me to the dishes. And what will you drink? Tea with sugar. Just a second. He returned with a cup of hot sweet tea. The recess was not as fun and as we had liked. The guy and I continued to chat, but because of his friends who joined the conversation didn't flow enthusiastically. 4 more lessons passed, and Axel and I finally went home. Today, I have learned a lot about my boyfriend, about his favorite things, interested. It turned out to be as boring as a fraud. Maybe he is not really the violent and is just pretending to maintain the reputation and status of school bully. It's a pity he doesn't understand that his reputation is not worth Lisa's suffering. The time passed quickly during the conversation, and I didn't notice how he ended in my house. Well, bye? Yes. Pull yourself together, it's not difficult. I gathered all my willpower into the forest and quickly kissing X on the cheek, disappeared into the house with lightning speed. I clicked the lock and I looked through the pinhole. The guy's school suddenly stopped, gently touching me the place where I kissed him. He continued to stand still for a minute, and when he came over his senses, he almost skipped over the direction of his house. Every day I began to spend more and more time with Axel. In this morning we went to school together, and after lunch we returned home. We often walked sitting on benches in the park or in the backyard of the school. I completely forgot who he was, or rather who his was. It seems that life has become easier, or for Liz too. The gangs of hypocrites which it unfortunately joined broke up and their stock began to her. It was rare that once my boyfriend's friends could realize a caustic praise in his direction. I was glad that my young man has changed, that has no longer enjoyed bullying someone who could me back. But I was afraid of one thing. Sometimes the thought crept in my head that the ex was just pretending, that he was just trying to seem nice and caring. I knew he was capable of such a thing, but I refused to believe that he could decide to pull this trick me. "Ow, did you come with Axel again today?" "Not again, but again." "To be honest, I'm really glad." "What? You know yourself." "I don't know what you mean." I carelessly looked back at the cluster of 10 guards talking cheerfully at the end of the corridor. In the center of his group was my boyfriend. The faces of his pretty friends were frozen with felt grins. I grimaced. In the company of X, he still somewhat subtly changed. I knew he liked it when others tried to please him, but I was glad that when he was alone with me, he became different. At least so, apparently, hypocrisy is not traitor to the end. I know that you really feel in love with him, and Danny is as much as you want, but you yourself know that told the truth. The call to class saved me from having to invent excuses. I hurriedly jumped over the window sill, grabbed my backpack from the floor, went into the English language room and sat down at my desk. My friend plopped down next to me. My boyfriend and I agreed that we would sit together for the last 3 lessons. Previously, I would never have raised to the topic, but recently, X began to consider my interested and always met me in a 40-something. He was no longer angry over thrills, although he often made a disagreeing face anyway. Strange. What? I have a bad feeling Lisa isn't in the class. Part 4. Do you think something happened to her? I was seized with anxiety. It could be haven't been, and it's hardly something good. I frowned, thinking about my friend's words. Hearing laughter behind me, I turned around. My boyfriend's friends were sitting at the last desk. They were talking about something cheerfully. My sides turned cold. Memories surfaced of my head of how they used to gather at the last desk like the others and now beating to Lisa, giggling wistfully and discussing what had happened in detail. Don't tell me Say did something to her again. After listening to the conversation, I brain sight of her life. The guys were chatting about some movie. The girl was out of the question. Suddenly, the door slammed against the wall, and the whole class turned around the noise. A girl in a battered black hoodie entered the office. "Phew, Liz, what the hell are we standing for?" Axel jumped the price. "Hulk?" Lila grabbed my elbow. I looked at my friend, following her gaze, come across the girl's hand hidden behind her back. It took me quite a bit of time to make out the black trigger standing out against the beige walls. I looked with horror at Lila, who bulled her eyes at X in a fear. "Just don't. I've put up with you for too long. Hypocrites." Lisa spat out every word. A shot rang out. Chairs rattled. Someone stamped loudly. My ears were caught by a low scream, but I was only when my throat began to hurt that I realized that the scream was expelled from my lips. Blood was splashing in a even puddle on the floor as I hopped towards on his shake legs. Axwell's body and frankly tried to feel for a pulse. A strange cracking sound was heard. I raised my head in confusion. It turned out that it was Lila who tore off the sleeve of her blouse and pressed into Axel's bleeding wound. I shifted my gaze to the floor on the doorway. She continued to stand next to me, and for a second it seems to be that her gaze was full on the pain and regret. "I'm sorry," she said softly. A tear rolled down her better face. She drew a paw across for the fresh scar, and the girl hurried to brush it all with her hand. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my friend crawl onto the desk and start digging into her phone. Probably calling the cops or an ambulance. A fog began to cover my thoughts. "I just needed to repay the same coin," Lisa said. My lips trembled. My young man's smile was in the front of my eyes, not the nasty duplications green with the age he used to bully Lisa, but a sincere kind smile. "He has changed so much." "Why?" "Because you look hypocrites!" The girl broke into a scream. "You all saw and knew what he did to me. You will all notice my scars, bruises and scratches, but you didn't know anything. You all hypocrites!" At first, I thought I was only imagining the scene. Lisa became alert and stood still for a few seconds, not moving, and then suddenly broke off and ran somewhere. I was sitting on Axel's body and crying silly. Everyone had to pay for the signs. I knew that, but until the last I hoped that Axel would be able to escape the punishment of fate. Unfortunately, it didn't depend on me. Yes, he has become different. Yes, neither his nor his friend touched Liz anymore, but it didn't change anything. Axel got what he deserved. But why didn't she kill the others? Didn't have time? What about me? I was sitting right in front of her, and it was easy for her to put a muzzle to my attempt. Or maybe she didn't want to? I didn't hate to my think. The police and ambulance staff entered the office. My mind was closed. A lot of time has passed since that day, and I still can't come to terms with his death. Lila was right. I really fell in love. Despite everything he did in the past, I was able to really love him. I come to the park every day, buy banana ice cream, and sit on the very bench. I don't take off the bracelet he gave me. He is my memory of him. I will talk in monsters. I know that. What happened to leave a huge mark on my life, and I must admit completely changed it. Now I'm determined to become a physiologist, Trying to recover and distract myself, I began to study physiology differently, and in the future I want to help children and teenagers like Liz. Yesterday, I found out on the news that the police found her body. She was still wearing the same worn-out black hoodie, and in her pocket was a small black notebook. I was called back to the police station, and there I found out the girl was planning to kill in Anto company. Apparently, she really didn't have time to deal with the others. The black notebook was not a diary at all. It was a list of her abusers, from which she apparently crossed me, and after I stood up to her, I realized what a creature I was. I could have called the police, informed her parents, talked to ex-fellow of his mother. If they had switched to me, I could have just transferred in another school, but I met in excesses and continued to do nothing. And when it was too late, Liz was right. I am a hypocrite. We are all hypocrites.